young, talented star cornerback slash safety hybrid, Boo Carter, was not at the game. He was not at the game, and at first it was just injury, right? Like it was just announced, okay, Boo's not playing, he's just hurt. But it turns out he just wasn't there. And by the sound of it, by what Heupel said in the post game presser, it sounded like they told him to stay home. Heupel and the coaching staff told Boo, why don't you just stay home? Why don't you just sit this one out, bud? Um, this situation has reached its boiling point to me, Dakota. It
Yes.
really has. Funny enough, dude, I was just telling you before the show, the last live show me and you did together without Blake, we talked about this situation heading into the season and saying how, oh man, Boo and his mom are talking about transferring, whatever. And then Boo's mom has continued to post on social media and kind of add fuel to the flame when it really didn't need to be there. Like at the points that she was adding fuel to the flame, Dakota, it felt like, okay, Tennessee still has a chance to compete. Your son's playing and making an impact. What's the problem? Like, what continues to
Yeah.
be the problem? But now at this point, with Boo basically being told to stay home, again, it's reached its boiling point, man. And I think he will. I don't think we'll see him ever again in a Tennessee jersey. That's my prediction at this point.
No, I love that. And for those that haven't heard it, I have the quote pulled up from Heupel in the presser where he said, "At the end of the day, there's a standard that you have to meet to be in that locker room. He was not out on the field with us." So, to your point, it had nothing to do with football. And yeah, we talked about this. What was it, like 3 months ago now, before the season started? And I think I'm in the same boat where, to be honest with you, if I am the coaching staff, like he's done. Like you're
Yep.
just done for me. It's kind of rare, he think Boo Carter's had some great play for the Vols. He has. Um, but I feel like even watching him on the field, there's been a lot of either boom or bust, where it's like he's either making a really good tackle or something, or he's getting burnt on a shallow route on a third down, or he's muffing a punt. And he's not as talented or athletic as Travis Hunter, but
No.
that's what he thinks he is in his mind. And I think at the end of the day, like, it's rare that there's moments where guys have off the field issues like this and recover from that. And like suddenly they're not an issue anymore. Cause like even in our history of like with Nico kind of doing it last year, Jeremy Banks was a good example of that. Like there's rare Jawan's probably the exception, and that's just because like Butch hated him. But there's rare occasions where a guy is an off the field cancer and suddenly stops being one. And the reason I think he is, and this is what will also separate him from never being Travis Hunter, is he doesn't care about football, man.
He
Like
doesn't.
I don't think the kid cares about football. And Travis Hunter was giving his all. Like he wanted to be on both sides of the ball because the dude loves football. Like he wants to help his team win. Boo Carter just wants the glory of being out there and being a part of, his moments to shine. And I think at the end of the day, that's what started this all before the season. Him and his mom wanting more for Boo, not what's best for Tennessee or the football team. It's all about him, and I just don't think there's any coming back from that.
There's not. It's over. The situation's done. And they need to rip the band-aid off. I think you have to get that kind of cancer out of your locker room. You do. And how much of it is Boo versus his mom? I don't know. There's a part of me that feels bad for Boo in his situation
Yeah.
because he has had bad guidance, very clearly has had bad guidance, and is guided by someone who is motivated likely by money and fame and not by
Yep.
the love of the sport and actually being good and having a legacy. And that's the thing though. The funny thing is, and you bring up a great point. His talent's not outweighing the BS right now. It's just not.
Yeah.
Like, had Eric Berry done this, Dakota, well, maybe it's different. It's Eric freaking Berry. He's a Hall of Fame player. But dude, Boo is average at best. Like, I'm sorry, and I know he was a fan favorite for a little bit, but I have never bought into the Boo Carter hype like a lot of our fans have. He just hasn't made the impact. And it has been a lot of boom or bust with Boo. I mean, Blake and I were just talking about on the Oklahoma review how he's given up on plays and not actually running out plays. I mean, that happened last week. And I think it's just time for the coaching staff to rip the Band-Aid off. But going back to Eric Berry too, because it's like, that's the difference between, that's what makes guys good versus great, by the way. It is the intangibles. That's why you never would have seen something like this from a player like Eric Berry. He was a Hall of Famer on the field and off the field. Boo Carter is neither. He will be neither. And if he does go to Colorado, like we have in the overlay, enjoy the 3-9 season. That is now the standard at Colorado. Now that you don't have a generation, because Travis Hunter is a generational player, Dakota. Okay, and there's a lot of discussion about how good was Travis Hunter and was it just the snaps or whatever. Let me just tell you, I believe from people I trust, people who know football, Travis Hunter was a generational player. He was an elite receiver and he was an elite cornerback. And what he did was unheard of. And Boo Carter, dude, he's not even playing offense and he's not an elite cornerback. Imagine if you added offense to his play. He would become a worse cornerback, and I doubt he's just some savant at wide receiver. I just doubt it. And to your point, because Travis Hunter, a lot like Eric Berry, high character guy. You can just tell by
Mhm.
the way he speaks and everything. He's a high character guy. Boo Carter has not shown any of those traits. He just hasn't. Ever since he's come back to the team, Dakota, because again, when we covered this in the offseason, remember when he was like being eased back into it and he was back in
Mhm.
practice? Every time I
Not
saw
dressed out.
picture
Yeah.
or videos, the attitude just wasn't there. He just didn't seem like he wanted to be here. He seemed like he was going through the motions. And for a guy who's average, that's not worth the headache. Get him out of here.
100%. And Rick brought up a really good point too on the Travis Hunters that nobody worked harder than him, which is
Exactly.
true. Because to be like he is gifted beyond belief, like the athleticism and talent he has, but to become elite at two positions like he did took a work ethic that no one has, like an Eric Berry has. And there has
Yes.
been literally negative evidence that Boo Carter has that in terms of, to your point, the way he was acting when being eased back in and not using that as an opportunity to seem to learn, from his mistakes and also just be present with the defense, learning, growing, being ready to come back and immediately make an impact. And it's disappointing, man, because like you mentioned, he was a fan favorite. But like, the Jeremy Banks thing is the one that comes to mind heavily because, people can, go the Connor Stallions route if they want to blame the South Carolina game on that. But the Jeremy Banks controversy
Oh,
leading into that game is the thing that always stuck with me because, there was the moments like when we lost to Texas A&M and like what spiraled after that in 16 when you had like the Jalen Hurd stuff and Daniel Bro, all the stuff that was happening then. But like with Banks in 2022, it's I don't think it can be overstated how much that's probably impacting the locker room. Like there's an aspect
yes.
of it we don't see. And if this is the second time now, basically, that the team has had to witness Boo do something like this and his mom being vocal on social media, like there's no way it's not impacting that whole locker room. And specifically like the corner room, the secondary, like when they're having to be around him even more and watching him still get kind of like at moments where you just kind of get excused for it, right? Like he was that way at the beginning of the season. He still gets his job back, and these other guys are working harder than him every day. Like it's just there's no way it hasn't negatively impacted the locker room. And at
There's
this
no way.
point, it's done. Like that you have been too much of a cancer to this football team to be able to justify still being here.
Correct. And you bring up the Jeremy Banks situation. It's also very comparable to the Nico
Yeah,
situation. It's incredibly
correct.
comparable. I think the Nico situation and Boo's situation is one of the big problems with college football right now, man.
Yeah.
It's one of the side effects of the NIL era. It really is. And getting the parents involved and being heavily involved and earning money because Boo's not I just don't think Boo's mature enough to get big checks. I just don't. And I don't know, man. It's an interesting discussion. I got to shout out Backflip Spaghetti. He made a great point in the chat. He's disappointed in Boo, but he
Mhm.
still hopes he figures it out. And I agree with that assessment because there is a part of me that and I started with this that I feel bad for the kid because I really think the big issue is the parent. The parent's supposed to lead you in the right direction and he's clearly not getting that leadership. He just isn't. And he's a young kid and he should be guided correctly. But he's not. And again, this goes all the way back to him getting the same agent as Ace Bailey, man. And remember, Ace Bailey, if y'all don't remember, we talked about this in the preseason that Ace Bailey's is the guy who got drafted by the Utah Jazz and looked devastated. He looked devastated to be drafted, Dakota. And I don't, first of all, me personally, I could never understand a guy like that. Like if I got that life-changing opportunity, I would be overwhelmed with emotion. But for two, you just look back at all the NFL draft moments over the year, even the NBA draft moments, and it's like, dude, most guys when they get drafted, it's a blessing. It's a total blessing. But that kid was totally entitled, man. He didn't want to go to the team that he was drafted to, and Boo went to his agent. And that just says a lot, man. It just says a lot.
It does, and the 2 points you brought up, like the money aspect too. It's like it's tough, especially for a kid like Boo Carter, where like I don't know for sure, but I think it's safe to say he probably didn't have like the best, you know, financial situation, whatever, growing up. So like when these moments now happen even earlier in a kid's life, they're obviously it's going to change things pretty drastically for them. But when they're kind of molded by a parent that is a bit flawed, I would say, in terms of the perspective on what matters the most and the values that have been taught, it makes it even more difficult. Um, and then to your point too with Nico, like it's so far too the prime examples we've had to witness already at Tennessee, and I'm sure others have started to happen. We're not as privy to, is that it's been guys who can't justify this type of headache. Like people
Yeah.
who these players, like your caliber is not good enough to justify acting like this, and that's a problem.
It is, dude. And the funny thing is, how could you not learn from the Nico situation? Listen, Tennessee's not going to the playoff, whatever. But at the end of the day, and we will have long offseason discussions about this. I'm sure a lot of clips as well. But if you compare what happened with Joey Aguilar, him coming here, and what happened to Nico at UCLA, like really? That's Boo's heading down that route, right? You're
Yeah.
you're heading down the route of going to a team that's completely irrelevant, sucking, and your career going in the complete dump. And Nico has no future in the NFL, Dakota. He has no NFL future. Boo is headed down this route. And for what? And for what? It makes no sense to me whatsoever, especially after having this example on your own team. Like you witnessed it with your own eyes. You played with both quarterbacks. I know you know the difference. Like you see the difference every day in practice. Yet you still thought, you know what? It's probably smart for me to head down that route opposed to the Joey Aguilar route. It just makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.